Okay, perfect. And today what we wanted to talk about are codes for clients, service codes, as well as budgets and what those might mean for you and the clients that you're working with. So like I mentioned, we are going to have a Q&A session at the end of this. If you do have questions while we're walking through this presentation, feel free to throw those in the chat. And if they pop up while we're talking through it, I'll be sure to answer them as we go. And if not, we'll circle back around at the end. So to get started, client service codes. We have a lot of client service codes that we offer through Giv.care. And some of the main ones that we offer are SLN, and then an additional one is SLH. So SLN and SLH are very similar. The difference would be SLN is intended for clients with natural supports. That would entail the parents with their family living at home, where those parents and guardians are probably the main caregivers. So SLH would be a different living situation. However, the service type is so for SLN and SLH, most of the service that's being provided would include support, offering supervision, keeping them safe, whether that's at home or in the community, helping with activities of daily living. So anything from, using the restroom, brushing teeth, hygiene, regular routines that they would do every single day. Community access is a big point of SLN and SLH, so those are things that should be focused on. You can provide transportation. You could go shopping, grocery shopping, school shopping, clothes shopping, learning new skills, and then working towards their goals in general. So you can do a lot of activities with the service code SLN or SLH. The goal here would be to be working with those clients to help them be reaching the goals that they're setting. So we do have an example here. This is an example we put together that would kind of demonstrate what an SLN shift might look like. So Carrie Caregiver has an SLN shift, and again, that's supported living natural, with her client, Jane Doe. Two of Jane's goals include becoming more independent with ADLs, activities of daily living, and accessing her community. So, for example, during their shift together, Carrie might help Jane with a few things at home. She might help her brush her teeth, that's an ADL, and she might give her some prompts to help her make her bed without assisting herself. So that, again, would fall under kind of an ADL assistance there, as well as one of Jane's goals, to become more independent. Carrie could also take Jane to a doctor's appointment so she could transport her to any appointments that she has. They could get lunch together. And then because Jane is trying to access her community and get out in the community more, Carrie decides to bring her to the park, and they eat lunch, play on the swings, spend some time there. So supported living can take place in the home. It can take place out of the home. It can be to provide very specific care, or it can also be to, help that client get out into the community, which is a big part. Another code that we offer, these are actually two different ones, focus around chores or kind of, chores within the home. So we have CHA, which is chore services. That might include cleaning, snow removal, lawn care. And the other one is HSQ, which would be homemaker services. So that could include meal preparation, household care, cleaning, etc. These are two codes that Giv.care does offer. One thing to note on these is that these are available only when the individual who regularly would, clean the house or shovel the snow or make meals is not in the home available to do that, or if the client is unable to do that themselves. So, for example, parents who have a child who's a client typically wouldn't use chore services themselves because they would be the regular individual doing these tasks in their home anyway. However, if they were out of the home working and they needed some extra help with it, that would be another caregiver stepping in to provide these services. Some other service codes that we offer are respite codes. So we do offer RP2 and RP3 as our respite codes through Giv.care. And so RP2 is routine respite without room and board. And so that means that it's taking place typically in the client's home. They're not going to one of our locations and staying there for respite. Same thing with RP3, that's exceptional care respite. And so same thing, no room and board. However, exceptional indicates that there's a great medical or behavioral need, and so it may take a little additional care outside of just that routine respite. So same thing, this is intended to give relief to the normal parents who are typically the main caregivers. So again, if you're a parent or guardian, you wouldn't work a respite shift, but another caregiver could come in, work respite, and that would kind of give you a break to be able to accomplish something that you needed to do, to go to work, to go out on a date night, something like that. So that would take care of respite for us. We also offer DSI, which is day supports for an individual. So this code is intended to support a client during the day to help them be able to get out into the community, to socialize, basically not to be isolated. And we do offer DSI. This is used commonly when a client is living in a residential facility. So they may be in a facility, but they still want the opportunity to get out into the community, regular programs through that facility. And so this would be used, again, to help them get out. So you wouldn't usually use DSI within the home or within a facility. It would be all about getting that client out. Okay, we're going to switch over. So those were the service codes we were just talking about. We're going to switch over really quick to client budgets. So a client budget is made of the same fundamental elements across the board. There's going to be a start date and an end date on a client budget. There's going to be a total unit or hour amount. And you'll see a unit and hours used, both of them. Typically, the state and support coordinators are working with units. However, families, caregivers are working with hours. So there's a conversion there. 1 unit equals 15 minutes. So when we're talking about a unit, we can convert that over to hours if that makes more sense to you. So if we were to look at a budget, we could do some calculations to determine how many hours you would be using regularly in a client budget. So we could take the total number, or if you're halfway through your budget, the remaining amount that you have available, and then we would divide it by either the months that are remaining or the weeks that are remaining. So doing that would give you a monthly amount to be using versus dividing by the weeks would give you kind of that weekly amount. So we do have an example here for Jane. So this is Jane Doe's budget. Jane has a start date of her plan is May 1st of this year. And you can see it's going to go for 12 months. So it's going to go through April 30th of next year. She has a total of 2,400 units. And so if we divide that by 4 to get the hours, we're going to get 600 hours. And if we were to break that down, we could say, we want to find out how many hours she should be using each month. We could take that total number of hours divided by the months remaining, which would be 12 right now, because if she's at the beginning of her plan, we'd say 12 hours total, 600 divided by 12 is 50. So we'd be aiming for about 50 hours of care a month. And then if we were to look at a weekly amount, then we could be taking 600 hours divided by the number of weeks in that plan. That's 52 weeks. And that comes out to 11 and a half hours per week. So that would be the weekly amount that we would aim to schedule. You can see your budget in the Giv.pic app. And so this is a view of what that would look like. If you're not sure how to see the budget in your app, you can log into your Giv.pic app. This is going to be for individuals who are scheduling the shifts. Click on that little profile icon down here in the bottom right corner, and then it will take you to a screen where you can see the client budget. So if we have multiple codes in our budget, for example, this example is for Jane Doe. She has SLN and she has a respite code. You can click on either one of those, and then you can toggle to either the month view or the year view. So we can see this one's toggled to SLN, and we're looking at the year. And so right now, if she was at the beginning of her plan, you could see she has 600 hours, and it would give you when that plan ends. If we toggle to the month, it'll give you how many hours are remaining that month. And then same thing, you could go back and forth between the annual or the monthly to kind of do the math, calculate if you need to use more 1 month, what would that leave you if you need to use less, and so on. We do want to let you guys know we are aware of an error in the Giv.pic app on this budget screen. So typically, what is happening right now within the app is for the monthly amount, you can see right here, this is the beginning of the plan. It says 50 of 50 hours. As you start to use these hours, it actually won't give you that total number. It'll only tell you what's remaining. So for example, if Jane had used some of her hours already, then instead of saying, 40 hours remaining of 50 hours total, for the month, it would actually just say 40 hours of 40 hours. So we do apologize for that issue. That is something that we're working on right now, and hoping to get fixed so that it's a little less confusing looking at it in the app. All right, we do have limitations as well. Some of these are imposed by Giv.care, and some of these are just state regulations. And so a few limitations when we're looking at billing service codes at a client budget is that caregivers are limited to a maximum of 40 hours per week. And so you cannot schedule a caregiver for more than 40 hours a week. If they do end up working a few more hours than 40, they will get adjusted back down to 40. So just wanted to make you aware of that. Currently, if you're in charge of scheduling, you can view completed shifts in your Giv.pic app and kind of add up the hours that your caregivers have worked for a week, for a month, however you want to frame that. And then caregivers can each see their own weekly totals via their Giv.care app. So we are working right now on implementing into the Giv.pic app a function where you could actually see the total caregiver hours. It's not there right now, but it is coming in the near future. So something we're working on now. Second limitation I wanted to touch on with you guys is that service codes cannot be billed at the same time. So if you have someone providing SLN, supported living, someone doing chore services cannot come in and work a shift at the exact same time. So we can't overlap. That's a Medicaid regulation that we have to follow. Another one is that hours can't be billed while a client is hospitalized. So if your client is in the hospital receiving inpatient care, you can't actually log shifts at that time. We know it would be really useful, but again, a Medicaid regulation that we have to follow. And then last limitation, and oops, I actually numbered that 2 instead of 4. That should be a 4. But Giv.care will not compensate caregivers for hours that exceed a client's budget. So if you schedule, all of your hours, you go over what you maybe should be using each month, and you use up your entire budget, then once the budget hits 0, even if the plan does end for another couple months, Giv.care can no longer compensate caregivers. So you're basically out of budget means out of compensation. So while it is important to note that, let me click back a screen. When you're looking at your budget, this annual amount is the hard stop. So that is the definite number. This monthly is a suggested amount. So it's basically breaking down saying you should be using X amount of hours each month. You can actually work more hours than that in a month or less. However, once that annual plan amount hits 0, that's when the budget is ending. So that's when we can't do anything more. No more hours could be scheduled, and you'll have to wait until that plan renews. Something we are doing, and we just started implementing these, and so some of you may have already seen an email if you're halfway through your plan cycle already. We are implementing client budget reviews with each of our clients. And so this happens when you're at your halfway point in the plan cycle. And so typically if your budget is about a year, then we'll contact you at 6 months and just give you a check-in for your budget. And so we'll review the expenditure, see what's left, and then kind of give you an idea if you're overusing your budget, underusing your budget, what that looks like, answer any questions you may have. So be on the lookout for that you'll get outreach from us, and we'll provide you a report and then also a recommendation if it seems like you're not using as many hours as you maybe should be. We want to make sure you are maximizing that plan for the client's benefit. Or if you're overusing, we don't want you to get stuck with no hours left in the budget before your plan ends. So just a touch point that we'll be implementing. And so again, you'll probably be seeing these over the next couple months as you hit that halfway point in your plan. Okay, some tools and resources. We know right now in our app, we give you the total plan amount, and then we break it down into suggested monthly amount. But we know that's not always how your budget works out. So sometimes client needs vary. Sometimes schedules change. For example, we just started school for a lot of our clients. And so going from summer hours to school hours means different hours are used on a monthly basis. Additionally, holidays, vacations, caregiver changes, all of those are things that might come up that will not just be the same across the entire plan. So if you want to see how to work these changes into your budget planning, we actually have coming soon a budget calculator that is going to be released that you'll be able to play around with your budget, plug in, certain hours that you might use in a month to kind of estimate how to use the rest of your plan. Additionally, we want to let you guys know that at any time you can email us at support@Giv.care. We would be happy to answer questions you have, to kind of walk through your budget with you. We could set up a time to meet. So if you need help, if you want to see how your budget could play out, if you have thoughts around that, but aren't quite sure how to tackle it, definitely email us. We're here to help you guys. And so we want to make sure that you understand your budget, you know how it works, and we'll do our part, as well as your support coordinators. They are an amazing resource. And so either one of us would be a good front to turn to for that. Okay, that concludes our presentation. Again, if you do want to contact us, you can email support@Giv.care. We also have an Instagram if you want to see. We have a great social media poster, and so you can check out any of our posting on Instagram as well. So lots of great resources there. I do want to open up the floor now for some Q&A. And so this could be regarding service codes, client budgets. Additionally, if you have other questions unrelated, then we would love to hear those as well. So I will open up the floor. Feel free to raise your hand, shout out your question. Either way works.
Jen, there was, Shaylin asked one in messages that I responded to, but if you wanted to address that.
Yeah, perfect. Yep, she asked, when was the 6-month review implemented? She didn't recall seeing that when she hit 6 months. That actually was just implemented this month. So we actually just sent those reviews out this week. And so if we missed you, but you would be interested in still getting a budget review, feel free to email us. We'd be happy to meet with you, even if it's past that half your budget. Or if you're not quite to the halfway mark and you still would like to see where you're at, then you can reach out to us and we'd be happy to run that report for you and talk through it with you as well. If no one has any questions, I'll just bring up one that gets asked. Let's see, Pam has a question. Okay, let's see. Is there a way to stop FICA Medicare withholding from caregivers who are parents of disabled adult children? Okay, yeah, that's a great question, Pam. What happens with FICA taxes is that they still apply when you are a W-2 employee. And so as an employee of Giv.care, you still will have to have FICA taxes withheld from your wages. If you have additional questions on that, Pam, go ahead and reach out to us and we can answer that more specifically. But general answer is that they are withheld as a W-2 employee. Has caregiver compensation been funded is another question. Will it continue? So Katie posed that question. Katie, caregiver compensation is continuing. It is changing. So the state DSPD currently is working on the formatting of caregiver compensation moving forward. And so we are supposed to hear something in October of this year and at the latest by the end of the year. And so we are just as excited as you are to learn more about that and what that might look like. So for now, we're kind of waiting just to see where DSPD is going with that, but it will continue. The formatting of it will simply change. Yes, Shailene, you have your hand raised.
From what you say about caregiver comp, it makes it sound like you guys really don't have any heads up. And assuming that's true and that there are changes with like the SLN code and caregiver comp, how long do you know, like how long before changes are implemented from when they're first like released?
Yeah, excellent question. We did just reach out to DSPD recently, and they are still kind of at the round table discussing this. And so we don't have, as of now, we don't have a heads up. I would anticipate that they'll reach out to providers who would be affected by caregiver compensation changes and let us know, where things are going when they make a final decision as well. I'm sure they'll release a statement or some kind of resource for that as well. But yeah, at this point, we simply know that they're trying to restructure caregiver compensation now that it's permanent in order to better be used through providers and then also through the SaaS model. And so I'm so sorry we don't have very much information on that. If anyone does have additional information, they're welcome to share that at this time. But that is kind of where we stand right now.
I do have a second question.
Mhm.
And I actually have been emailing about this, and I don't know if any of you guys want to address it, but the fact that sometimes the support coordinators have a lower monthly limit, and that's what's been put as the monthly disbursement basically on the first of every month on the app. Just, I feel like that should be addressed just because it kind of has screwed me over the last couple of months here. Does anybody else, do one of you guys want to address that, or I can like explain to people how to prevent that from happening?
Yes, I would love to talk about that. And thanks for bringing that up, Shailene. Yeah, we currently how it's working is we do adhere to something that's called a monthly max. So a monthly maximum is set by a support coordinator of a client. And so the purpose of that monthly maximum would be the support coordinator saying, you probably shouldn't be using more than this amount each month. And so sometimes those monthly maxes set by support coordinators might be a little bit high, might be a little bit low. So if it's on the lower side, that monthly max restriction is actually, that's the number you are going to see on the monthly amount in your app. That's the way it sits currently. We are working on some changes with that because we understand support coordinators don't always have up-to-date numbers. They don't always, assign the right monthly max, or needs might change, use might change. And so it's just hard to keep up with that number and make sure it's accurate. So if your support coordinator has a monthly max that is set lower than what you could be using each month, that would limit your usage. We definitely recommend talking with us, talking to your support coordinator. Your support coordinator can actually raise that monthly max at any time. And once that happens, we can reflect it in our app so that you're seeing that reflected number in your app as well. So yeah, one thing to probably just be aware of is that there is a monthly max. It does play into the app as of now. We expect that will change soon. We have changes coming that will affect that. That will kind of disregard the monthly max. But for now, definitely talk to your support coordinator, talk to us. We can get that monthly max adjusted by your support coordinator if it's something that's low and restricting your use. Yeah, Shailene, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I really don't want to take over this. I just want to point out that if people are new coming into services, that monthly max could have been set by the transition caseworker. I'm a support coordinator as well, and I haven't set any monthly maxes for new clients that come in. So, and oftentimes that number is just kind of like an auto punch in number. So if your support coordinator has set it low, like don't get after them because they maybe didn't set it. It just hasn't been looked at. So.
Excellent point. Yeah, I appreciate that. I didn't actually know that it was originally set by the transitional caseworker. So that's, yeah, awesome information. And a good topic to definitely touch on this as well. Any other questions, again, related to the topic of service codes, client budgets, or unrelated? We can answer those as well. We want to make sure you guys have time to ask questions that you have. So I'm going to open up the floor for a few more minutes, see if anyone else has a question they want to ask. Okay, well, I think those were all the questions that came up. If there are any additional questions, feel free, again, email us at support@Giv.care. If you're still confused about service codes, still confused about your budget, where you stand with that, reach out to us. We really do want to help. Your support coordinators are another awesome resource, so they can also talk to you about budgets and billing codes and what makes sense for your specific client. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. That's our contact email, so reach out as needed, and we hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, Jen. Great job.
Thanks, Wade.